Und los geht's. So, welcome everybody here in Zandvoort. It's Tuesday evening. It's time for Global F1 PC on Racing Liga TV. I'm Thomas and I have Benjamin on my side. Welcome.
Yeah, excited for one. Certainly an interesting racetrack, I think, and we hopefully will see some overtakes and see a little bit of a preview of what is about to come in the real F1 this weekend.
Yeah, totally. I mean, obviously we had a little bit of a delay and we're still working on the media overall. If it's not working, please give us some hint in the chat. We're still trying to sign everything up, but it's still a little bit of a struggle, but we're trying to have it fixed by the next week. But all of that, let's just focus on what's going on the track. We have Liam Parnell with an 1:08.824 on P1, actually before the number 2 in the Aston Martin with just 1:10 behind. So actually very, very close when we look at the top 4, top 5. Very interesting to see. Currently on Sam McBride, who had a major accident. His whole front wing is missing. So we're gonna jump to another car, which could be more interesting. Let me check for the actual settings here, and maybe you can give us some feedback about the track facts and what to have a look for on this actual. Yeah, it's a very short track, isn't it?
It is a very short track. It is, in fact, the shortest circuit, the shortest permanent circuit, I should say, on the calendar. Only Monaco with 3.3 kilometers is shorter than this one here. 4.259 kilometers beats the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico by about 45, sorry, that's my math being off. 45 meters, that's how short it is, and 2.646 miles for those of you who measure things that way, which means we will have 36 laps of racing tonight. 14 corners around this rather short circuit, only 4 to the left, and a full 10 corners to the right. So the left side tires will be absolutely burning. That we can expect, which puts the drivers into a little bit of an interesting situation, because those tires, you will have to nurse them in some way, and especially if we look at the section of, I think that's turn 7, 8, and 9, sort of triple right-hander. Turn 7, honestly, the corner of bravery around this circuit, called Scheivlak. And no, that's not a swear word. It might sound like one, but it's not. And then to turn 8, the Master Corner. That's actually the name in Dutch, Master Bocht. Bocht meaning corner. And then turn 9 as well. 3 right-handers back to back to back, and very high speed as well, which means the tires will be sliding through turn 9. And the driver who manages that the best will be the driver who should set the fastest lap time here over the course of the 1 lap, where they have to set the fast time in qualifying. Right now, that's Carter Lundy with a 1:08.6. But, I mean, we have 2 drivers that are very, very close right now, within a tenth of Ruben Vallejo at HX4K. And more track facts, the tires that we use here are the C3, C2, and C1. C3 being the softest, so the hardest compounds of the selection. And difference between the tires, about 0.6 of a second each. So mediums 0.6 slower than the softs, hards 0.6 slower than the mediums. And they last quite long as well. We're talking 14 laps for the softs, a whole 20 laps for the mediums, and 25 for the hards. So a lot of lifespan in those tires, and very evenly matched as well. 14, 20, 25. Could say the medium tire probably a little bit better, a decent race tire around here, but all in all, you know, all 3 tires pretty viable. I would think though that we see soft to medium on the inside for every driver here tonight, unless there are some technical difficulties or damage to a car, then we might see some changes.
Yeah, actually pretty interesting when we see Liam Parnell putting himself into P1 with just 1,000th of a second before P2, and we see a lot of cars now going for their second or third hot lap. But interesting to see that the field is pretty close in the beginning, like the first few positions are really close to each other, and then in the middle field I would say there's a lot of traffic going on. When we have between P6 and, for example, P16, we have only like 0.5 of a second. Obviously it's a very short track, but that also highlights how close the field is going to be today.
Yeah, exactly. It is a short track, but it's also a very challenging track. It's a difficult circuit. I'm speaking from experience here because I literally just raced this very circuit earlier today for the full 100% race. I've done 72 laps around this thing, and I'm sick and tired of it at this point. Needs to be said. But no, it's a fun circuit to drive as well. The up and down, it feels a little bit like a Dutch roller coaster. And it's an interesting circuit. It's hard to overtake around here, but it's a lot closer than you would expect around a circuit like this, where you have so many corners where you can make mistakes and lose heaps of time. Let's take, for example, turn 3, the massively banked hairpin, really, at that point of turn 3. That's a corner. If you get the exit wrong, you can easily lose half a second, because from there through 4, 5, and 6, it goes flat out, and even 7 is very, very fast. So you can easily lose a lot of time there. For the top 17 to be within a second is absolutely remarkable, and that excludes Sam McBride, whose only lap so far was apparently mistake riddled. He's 9 seconds down on the leaders. Gelbevand, who's a little off the pace, also probably with a mistake on his lap, and Racingstein, who will not even set a lap here today.
Yeah, that's actually pretty sad. I saw him when we were still preparing the stream. I saw him actually going DNF already, but I'm not sure if he even drove a lap. He chose the medium tire for his outlap, so I'm not really sure if he really has been driving, or if he just wants to start last today. I'm not sure. We actually have a lot of reserve drivers going on today, right?
Quite a few reserve drivers, that is correct. Let me just actually quickly get up the list, because it is quite long, of the reserve drivers that are going to be participating here. If I could find it, there is the race registration. And yeah, we have of the actual drivers, the ones that are the main drivers, if you will, we have about 12, which means from the reserves we have I think Sam McBride is one of them. HX4K in the Aston Martin in P4 is another. Shazoo Biter, I was always going to say Sync Biter. No, he changed teams. He changed esport teams recently. He's Shazoo Biter now in P11. He's another one. So the whole McLaren team is completely made up of reserves. We've got Ruben Pedreño, not Ruben Vallejo, Ruben Pedreño in P5, another reserve driver. Then we've got Neon in P12, who has already retired. JST in, where is he? There he is, in P9. I was looking for him for a second there. He's a reserve. JXN in 17th. We've got Galbavand in 18th as a reserve. And Koronengolo is supposed to be, but he's on, I think Ikabaenya is supposed to be as well. Yeah, he wasn't here. He was here earlier in the lobby, but he then left again. So I don't know who Koronengolo is. It might be Eduardo Garcia? I'm not actually... No, Eduardo Garcia is Alfa Romeo. That's normal. I don't actually know. But one more driver that's escaping me right now. Apologies for that. Gonna try and find it out. Maybe it's O2G. No, it was GG's in the Williams. That's correct. Sorry, I'm rambling on at this point.
That's very unlucky. I think HX4K was going on his hot lap and his teammate was standing in front of him, coming right out of the pits and blocking him off. So I think he was actually pretty pissed about that one. So a very good chance for him to improve his time, because he's just 4 thousandths behind P3, and there for sure is some potential to improve. Yeah,
certainly. We see how close it is there. If he improves by a 10th, that would be a provisional pole position. So that's how close the margins are, and to have your lap ruined by your teammate, even though it's only a temporary teammate, that one definitely stings for the Aston Martin boys.
Yeah, interesting to see Liam still in the pits, thinking he's going for a very last minute shot. Carter already on a first lapper. Maybe checking P2 at the moment. In the Mercedes, going through sector 1. What is the immediate time? A little bit faster than his current lap. Could be already enough, to be honest, but let's see where he's going at the end.
Sliding a bit there, that turn 9 was not what he wanted, and he immediately slows down and aborts this one. He wants to have another go. He knows this lap would not have been it after that mistake, that slide on the entry of turn 9. That curb is quite a tricky one on the exit of 8, entry of 9. That can easily completely spin you around, so good on him for holding the car a little bit there.
Yeah, in the meantime we saw Ruben Pedreño setting himself on P3 with a small improvement, but let's see if he still has time to set another lap, because currently that's not pole position, but it's P3 for Ruben. So let's see where the other drivers are going to be. We have Ruben Vallejo coming for his hot lap now. A little bit faster again, 0.05 of a second. Going actually for the fastest sector 1, if that's correct. I'm not really sure. I'm pretty new to the PC F1 21 game. Let's see where he comes out in sector 2. That looks pretty solid so far. And as you can see, 1 second, 1/10 of a second is pretty much enough to set pole position here. So let's see where he's going in the last sector. That looks pretty solid lap, to be honest. And let's see where he comes off. Not invalidating the last corner. That looks pretty fine. Let's see where he can go. That's actually a pretty good lap, I would say. And that's P1 for Ruben Vallejo.
It's a remarkable lap time right there. 1:08.3. It's going to be difficult. Liam Parnell is up less than a 10th on his own time. He would have to gain over a 10th on his own final sector if he wants to beat Vallejo here. He's going to come to the line now through the final corner. Will Parnell be able to make it? Get P1 off of Vallejo? I don't think so. No, he misses out by 0.08 of a second. We've got more drivers to come. I think Jeffrey Ritchie is the next one. He aborts into the pit lane. That's his session done. Carter Lundy on his way. He's not going to improve. In fact, he's on the main line there. Sig Bleiter flies past him. I think that's a personal improvement, but ultimately P14 nonetheless. We've got the other McLaren coming, Sam McBride, P11. We've got a AlphaTauri, I think that was Danny in P11 now. Yes, it was. The Red Bull of Dylan Warren aborts, goes into the pit lane. He's in P4. And Aston Martin coming into the pit lane. That should be HX4K. No, he doesn't go into the pit lane, but he is the last one. And he did not improve. So that is qualifying over. And it really heated up here right at the end. As we have Ruben Vallejo taking pole position ahead of Liam Parnell. Now we've got Carter Lundy and Dylan Warren on the second row. HX4K and Ruben Pedreño on the third. Kersey and Jeffrey Ritchie on the fourth. Eduardo Garcia and Eduardo's GG, the two Eduardos in P9 and 10, the fifth row on the grid, with Danny being the first of the drivers that can choose their starting tire for the race. Sam McBride right behind him in P12. And you will have the rest of the grid on your screen right now as the drivers now prepare for the race. 36 laps here at Zandvoort.
Yeah, actually, I mean, what has not been feedbacked so far, but I can see we have a little bit of a graphical damage in our picture, to be honest. I'm just gonna switch the mode here and we'll come back in a second. So that looks a little bit better. I think that was just because I was moving the window. So I still got a lot to learn here on PC platform in streaming, but there is one promise, and that is basically we're going to improve that day by day through the next few races. It's actually my first time doing it on the PC platform. So whenever you have some feedback, just post it in the chat. Feel free to. I'm happy to see what has been going wrong in the first few moments. But let's see, now we are having the warm-up lap here. We see all the drivers lined up. We have a very short break after the qualifying, and that is actually, I like it. It's the setup for the race is a lot better. It doesn't take so much time with all the breaks in between. So let's see where the drivers are going. Actually, we can also have a look on the tires, and therefore just having to make them visible here.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting choice with the tires. Looking at it, everyone inside the top 10 obviously is bound to the soft compound tire. They cannot choose any other. That's what they qualified on. That's what they have to start on. That rule, by the way, goes away for the next year, for the next F1 2022, whenever that game comes out in the year 2022. Very much looking forward to that rule being gone. And outside the top 10, it's very interesting that what Danny is doing in P11. Very surprised by the hard tire choice there, because everyone behind him is on the mediums. They're all going for the alternate strategy, medium to soft. It will be for them. Danny doesn't seem to have the confidence in the medium tire to make it far enough that he can strap on the softs. So he goes for the hards instead, which will cost him a little bit of time early on. That might actually be somewhat helpful later on in the race for him.
Yeah, actually, I mean, we talked about it in the beginning of the qualifying. The hard tire is actually just slow, like 0.6 seconds slower as the medium tire and 0.6 seconds slower as the soft tire then. So in total it's 1.2 seconds slower, but with a lot long lasting, yeah, I don't know, endurance, to be honest. That could make also the difference, but of course it's a very deviating strategy from all the other drivers.
Early on he will struggle to keep to the or stick to the back of Edouard and the other soft runners in front of him. It might be smarter for him to actually lose a position or two, because it's easier for him to stick with a medium runner than it is to stick with a soft runner. So he could either decide to hold everyone up or let someone by and stick with them. But here we go, 5 red lights are on, and we are underway for the Zandvoort, for the Dutch Grand Prix. Rumbeyer with a great start here early on. Liam Parnell keeps second, or does he? Carter Lundy around the outside, and he's got him. That is a fantastic move from Carter Lundy. The banking of turn 1 helped him there. He's up to P2. Now through that hairpin at turn 3, severely banked. Right to turn 7. And Lundy's looking for the move. He's around the outside here for turn 7. This is not going to work. We have a yellow flag behind. That is an Alfa Romeo. That is Bryn Evans, who is off, and I think he's not the only one. JXN as well. Who are the big gainers? We have 5 positions already for Racing Stein, from last already up to 15th. So he's really had a rocket start so far this first lap, but it's not obvious he's battling with Biter there. Meanwhile, Carter Lundy putting a lot of pressure on Ruben Vallejo early on. He wants that lead. He wants to be in P1. I don't know why you would do that this early on, but maybe it's good for some camera time, for some broadcast time for Carter Lundy.
Yeah, actually the driver was pretty impressive, to be honest. Like going with the Mercedes in the first turn, making it really strict, going through the better line in the outside, and then just grabbing Liam Purnell on the outside, going for the next turn, having the better line to choose. So very nice move from him. And now seeing himself in P2, where we can see the graphics are still like a little confusing, but we will see it back in a few laps. But we can trust our eyes.
Yeah, at the end of sector 1, usually it all figures itself out once we have the last car, as we have JXN actually in the pit lane. So usually it's supposed to be, actually it's not fixing itself properly, or is it? I think it is now. Perfectly fine. But usually at the end of sector 1 is when the graphics sort itself out. So now They are accurate again. Vallejo leading, Catalunya second, leading behind HX4K in P4. Also getting a position on Dylan Warren. So both Red Bulls, after starting P2 and P4, they started on the dirty side of the track, which is the inside here, and that really did not help them whatsoever. They both lost the position on the opening lap, and they're down to P3 and P5. Still very strong, though, as a team result for the Red Bulls so far. Third lap started. DRS now enabled. First time they will get it is on the exit of turn 9, entry of turn 10. That's the detection point. Exit of turn 10 is when they get to open that rear wing.
Yeah, actually then we will see what's going on with the overtakes, because you can see there is not so much space for wheel-to-wheel action here on Zandvoort track. This is actually pretty tough to overtake. I think there's not many spots where you can just pass a car on the track, so actually they are really looking forward to activating DRS, and that is only 1 and 2. This is like we have on the main straight, and we have this short area where we can see Catalunya right now going for DRS, but this is basically just to get a little bit closer to the car in front and then just try the overtake on the main straight. But that will be difficult because the management of ERS is also very critical on this track, because if you're blowing out too much on the main straight, that can cost you one place more.
Yeah, I mean, Catalunya has the DRS, goes for the move down the inside into turn 1 on Ruben Vallejo, who did not really defend that very much. He just let it happen, and Catalunya says, thank you very much, I'll go into the lead of the race. However, Catalunya severely severely disadvantaged at this point with the ERS. You mentioned it, he's on around 40%. Ruben Vallejo has double that. He's on 80% right now. That's a significant difference between those two drivers, and Ruben Vallejo's going to like this right now because Catalunya will have to use more ERS being the leading car, whereas Ruben Vallejo, he can just sit in the slipstream, get the DRS twice a lap, and he can recharge that battery. He's already up to 92 again. So Ruben Vallejo's living life right now in P2, and he's just waiting for Catalunya to lose some more ERS and use some more ERS. But Catalunya is also trying to regain some. He's back up to 50, around 55 almost. So a lot of recharging going on. Lundy used a lot on his opening lap. So you have a yellow flag sector 3. That is Bryn Evans again around on the exit of the Audi S. That is the third to last corner. And he is going again. It doesn't seem like... Oh, he spins again and he's out! He's out in the final corner, and that might be a safety car, at least a virtual safety car, because that is in the middle of the track. Well, he's a bit to the side there, but still, on circuit, I'm surprised that we do not get a safety car for this. Not even a virtual one. Only a yellow flag, because that was a heavy impact there. I think IRL, we would definitely get a full-on safety car for this. But the car has been cleared, and we are running again in full green flags around the whole circuit.
Yeah, actually the timing when the safety car shows up and when it doesn't is not yet so clear to everybody. But we have another car off.
Stein in PAT, that's in turn 3, and he's lost front wing parts. The right side end plate of his front wing is gone, so that's some damage sustained there as well. The I told you the tire temperatures around this circuit are really tricky to keep in check, and that's exactly what happens when you can't keep the tire temperatures in check. As meanwhile, Ruben Vallejo is now back into the lead on DRS on Catalunya here. So Vallejo, maybe he's going to use some ERS to try and pull a gap on Lundy, because Lundy is still low on ERS with around 45 now, whereas Vallejo is almost hitting that 100% limit and not regaining anymore. Very tricky there. You don't ever want to do that, but at the same time, if you have as much as you can possibly have, you know, that bodes well. Yellow flag again. I think that's just for racing. Stein again is going a bit slowly with his front wing damage. That's just fine there. Vallejo leading from Lundy and Parnell.
Yeah, I actually had a bit of an eye on P7 and P8, where the two Alpine drivers are fighting very closely. Like now there's a bit more of a gap, but just a few turns before there was like no space at all. It feels like Jeffrey Ritchie is actually a lot faster than the cars in front. But that is really difficult to overtake because there's no space, and especially with your teammate you don't want to risk too much. When we see Carter Lundy going again for P1 in turn 1. So Ruben Vallejo still on P2, and what is Liam doing is currently just watching the guys playing with each other.
And that's exactly what I would do as well. Like, why would you get involved in that? Maybe at some point these two are going to make contact, they're going to crash each other out, at which point Liam Pannell would be P1. So, you know, you just let them battle, let them fight. It's early in the race. You're still in it with a shout. P3, perfectly fine. Just let them battle. I absolutely understand his thinking here, completely with him. And so, you know, everything's fine. The one thing that surprises me at this point is P10, Sam McBride. Because he... Oh, there's Jeffrey Ritchie off! Oh, perfect timing. As I went on board with Sam McBride, I see Jeffrey Ritchie spinning off on the exit of turn 10 and straight into the wall. He's lucky to even be able to continue this race. He's in P14 and has no downforce on this car whatsoever. The front wing's completely torn off. And Stein, who is already lapped, and Beiter are trying to get past. The Beiter is now able to get past. And Jeffrey Ritchie will definitely go into the pit lane. He's lucky not to have ended that race this early, but definitely interesting. But yeah, Sam McBride, let's get back to him. He is running on the medium tire, and he can stick with those soft runners in front of him. That is remarkable, and that is very, very good for him come the second part of this race, come the second half of this race. Once all the soft runners pit, and once he pits for softs, he will be significantly quicker, and he should be able to make some overtakes happen later on in the race, simply based on grip.
Yeah, he's actually the best medium runner in the whole field. It's actually, we can see the left side in the list, P9 with the medium, and then we have a lot of medium and hard tires actually in the list. But as you also saw, Ruben Vallejo in the Haas took again P1 into lap number 8, and let's see. This is again the Haas driver spinning off. It is not his day, to be honest.
Yeah, I think a couple of drivers are struggling. Bryn Evans was one of them. Stein's one of them. And I think Jeffrey Ritchie might be one as well. It is a tricky second, and if the most important thing here, I think, if we're looking at tire temperatures, the most important thing is the tire pressures. Because, this is a little bit different than it is in real life. In real life, as Racing Stein actually retires in the pit lane there, in real life, if you have lower tire pressures, you tend to have higher temperatures. Because how does a tire get up to that optimal pressure? Well, by increasing the temperature. On this game, however, higher tire pressure means higher temperature, and lower tire pressure means lower temperature. But higher pressure also means better grip. And so you have to make a sort of call here as Liam Pannell pits early. That is super early. Is he going for hard? No, he's going for medium for 27 laps. There's a two-stop. Surely this has to be a two-stop. There's no way he can make 27 laps on the medium tire. Remember, pit stop loss is only 14 seconds. This is about the shortest pit lane on the calendar. You lose 14 seconds from a pit stop here. So Liam Pannell right now, he is 15 seconds behind the leaders. Maybe you lose 14 and a half. You know, a little bit of give or take there. But it's a very short pit stop here. And that might actually happen as Edwards is off as well. He's out. Oh my days. He retired in the pit lane. So another driver parking the car and saying, that's it for me today. We're down to 17 runners.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how Liam can actually pass then the McLaren driver in front of him, because he basically got fresh air in front of him. and he needs definitely those outlaps.
They're
he
all
needs
pitting.
to push.
Cartalundi's pitting as well. Not all of them, but Cartalundi's pitting. The leader of the race now in the pit lane as well to respond to Liam Parnell's pit stop here. He doesn't want to give him a big undercut. So Cartalundi, where will he re-emerge? There is Parnell on the track, and there is Lundy. Oh, they're side by side. I think Parnell has him, and he does. And Lundy almost crosses the line there. He did cross it a little bit, but I don't think it was enough for the game to punish him. But Liam Parnell pulled off the undercut. But will those tires last? I highly doubt it.
Yeah, it was actually nice that you were commenting it, because I fucked up the shortcuts to get there as fast as possible. So I was stuck at another car and I didn't move on. But yeah, actually, Liam Parnell placed himself in front of Cartalundi, which was not the case before. And that brings him into another position, now rolling up the field from behind, coming towards the McLaren driver first. And I think that shouldn't be that much of a job, because with those fresh tires, I think he should be able to just take him as soon as possible. Where we see Kersey going for the pit stop as well.
Yeah, that's another one right there. He responds as well. And at this point, I'm going to say, I think Liam Parnell is the net leader of this race, and he made it past Beiter here as well. So Liam Parnell has cleared the McLaren, while Cartalundi hasn't. But, oh, look at this, Beiter and that's the retired Mercedes of JXN. Sorry, I thought there was another Mercedes in the way that was sort of battling there, but no, that was just the retired car of JXN rejoining the track for some reason. But Beiter actually pulling out of the way for both of them. He does not want to hold them up. He just lets them go. He knows they're a different strategy to him, and so he does not get involved with that whatsoever. That's a gentleman-like thing to do. But he's not required to do that. Beiter did not get blue flags or anything. He was in a position battle with them on different strategies, so he didn't have to do that. But I think it was the smart thing to do ultimately. And let's see the leaders. The top four are all staying out. P5, Eduardo Garcia comes in. P6, Sam McBride. Now P5 actually slipstreamed him all the way to almost the pit wall there, trying to get as much slipstream as possible to defend from Neon and JST, who now have caught up with Sam McBride and who is vulnerable on the alternate strategy. He's the alternate strategy leader here, whereas Liam Parnell up to P9, and he still keeps that net lead of the race.
Yeah, it was actually interesting to see that Sam McBride with his medium tire was coming very close to the soft tire in front of him, and I think that was mostly the sign for the drivers. Let's go to the pit stop, let's get a fresh rubber on the wheels, because at some point you're gonna lose time, and I'm pretty interested how the strategy will work out for Liam Parnell, since actually he's doing a very good job getting here full pace. He got a lot of space in front of him. All the cars which came in front of him, he passed quickly. So I think he's doing a very good job after his pit stop. And let's see where he's placing himself at the end of the race.
Yeah, I can tell you, fastest lap from Sam McBride was lap 11 with a 1:11.7. Just to give you an idea, Ruben Vallejo's lap 11 was a 1:11.6, so slightly faster, but only a tenth. And here we see Cartalundi go for the move on Liam Parnell, up to P8. So Cartalundi now the net leader of the race.
Yeah, actually at that point, it will be a little bit hard to defend when you have a car that close behind you and you have the DRS activated. It's actually pretty. Yeah, at some point you have to think about it, if it makes sense to defend, or if you can just maybe just recharge your battery a little bit behind the car. You can maybe pace him up a little. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter at that point, but for sure he has to stick to him, and he has to make sure that he doesn't pull away, because that's currently virtual P1, I would say.
Yeah, meanwhile, I'm going to look at the top three here, see what they do, because they haven't pitted yet, and they should be pitting at this point, I think. And Ruben Vallejo does, and so does HX4K, and so does Ruben Pedreño. So Sam McBride will now inherit the lead of this race. Question is for how long until he makes his pit stop. I would expect him to come into the pits at around somewhere between lap 19, that would be really risky, and lap 22. That would be sort of the latest where I would go. And then onto soft tires he will go, as will Neon and JST, as well as Javier Fernandez, who's 4 seconds off the leader at this point in time. But I mean, yeah, and it's really interesting to see.
Pretty unlucky for Ruben Vallejo, which was coming out behind Dylan Warren, which means that the 2 Red Bull drivers are now in front of him. And he was actually a bit faster. Yeah, it looked at least like that in the first few laps. And now they switched positions. So let's see where the 2 Red Bulls can go, because Catalunya, we know, basically P1 right now. Liam and Dylan, and then we have Ruben Vallejo on P8. So let's see where that goes, because Ruben Pedreño is on P12.
Yeah, exactly. He's really lost out here in the pit phase. And for Ruben Vallejo, he might actually get one of the Red Bulls right here, because Dylan Ward has no DRS off of his teammate Liam Parnell. So Dylan Ward is absolutely vulnerable. And before the braking zone, Ruben Vallejo already completes that overtake, and up to P7 he goes with Dylan Ward in P8. That is a net podium at this point for Ruben Vallejo in P3, because of the 4 drivers that still have not pitted yet in the top 4 spots. Catalunya, meanwhile, is edging ever so close to Javier Fernandez, the 4th of those medium runners up front, who is sort of separated from the herd, if you will. 3.5 seconds behind JST, and with no DRS to use, he will be vulnerable as well for those hunting medium runners behind him.
Yeah, actually with the medium tire we expect somewhat about 20 rounds to be driven here at Zandvoort Grand Prix. So actually where do you think, what is the next step for the medium tires? Is it actually soft or is it the hard tire? What is your expectation?
I think for those that are still out on the medium tires, the top 4, it will be the soft tires. Meanwhile, Liam Parnell goes past Catalunya, and that is for the net lead once again. Liam Parnell back in the net lead of the race. They switch around in turn 1 once more. That seems to be sort of the pattern here so far of this race, that Liam Parnell and Catalunya are just constantly slipstreaming past each other on the main straight, constantly switching around, almost like a cycling race, almost like the Tour de France, or since we are in the Netherlands here in Zandvoort, the Amstel Gold race. It's really just the drivers constantly switching around, driver running in the wind for like 1 lap, using some of their ERS, and then switching to the other driver, then they get to do the work. That's exactly what's happening here, and it's interesting to watch for sure. But for the medium runners, it is the softs for sure. There is no way that these drivers, that 4 in the front, McBride, Neon, JST, and Fernandez, are ever going to strap on the hard tires here. This is not going to happen. They will pit between lap 19 and 22, I reckon, and they will all go on to softs.
Let's see, we have a car spun. Gelbewand is
Yep.
spinning, but I think there is no major crash, so no safety car to be expected. Interesting is, of course, what are the drivers doing there when they are fighting? Of course, they're gonna lose time as long as they're not dueling themselves in the turns, in the sector somewhere far from the main straight. I think they're gonna lose time. If they're gonna overtake themselves on the main straight, I think there's not much time lost, but they have to make sure that whatever they do there in front, they are not losing too much time compared to the other cars, because that can, especially when you're taking another strategy, it can be crucial for the raceman.
Yeah, not much time lost for them. The battling at this point is more working together than it is actually battling, so any overtake you see for the net lead between Parnell, Lundy, Vallejo, although behind the top 2, I would say behind the top 2 net leaders, Parnell and Lundy, any overtake there is definitely for position and not so much for working together. So Vallejo going past Warren, for example, that definitely was one. As Javier Fernandez goes defensive, he knows his strategy relies on these guys being held up. And not just his strategy, but for the front three as well. For McBride, Neon, and JST. Their strategy also relies on Parnell and Lundy being slowed down a little bit so that it allows them later on the soft to make some inroads. And Javier Fernandez really doing the top three aces a solid right now. A massive favor to those three by holding up the whole trade here.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty strong defensive move from Javier Fernandez on the main straight. I think, I'm not sure how much ERS he was blowing out, but he was definitely blocking off Liam Purnell with DRS activated. So interesting to see, and as you say, this is crucial for the four in front of Liam Purnell, how they're gonna survive the race. And actually Sam McBride is doing also a very solid job in front. He's actually running P1 since a lot of laps now, and let's see where he comes out in the end.
Yeah, meanwhile, Javier Fernandez, he's battled enough, he's tried as best he can, and Ruvallejo is going to try and sneak one in on Catalunya, and that is consequential at the end of the day, because that is not really so much for just to work together. This one was for position. Ruvallejo now in a net second place, and that might actually help him very much. Meanwhile, Javier Fernandez lets by Ruben Vallejo here. Not much of a fight being put up. He knows his time is over. He doesn't want to disrupt this group at this point, as he feels probably there might be a little bit of unfair involvement here if he now splinters this group a little bit. It would certainly help Liam Purnell, Ruben Vallejo at this point, but I don't think he wants to do that too much. But he also doesn't just get out of the throttle and leave them by. He's still got his own race to worry about. But he just realized that Rumbejo was going to go for that move, and he says, okay, well, you have that position. That's fine. We should be getting to the pit window for the old medium runners soon. And as I say that, Sam McBride, Neon, and JST all coming in.
While we see a move from Dylan Warren on the main straight into turn 1 against Carter Lundy. Still side by side, but I think this is going to be for the Mercedes driver, but it's still side by side going through the next turn, and I think Red Bull driver has made it.
It's not over.
It's not over yet, but
Red Bull slots in. P4 for Dylan Warren ahead of Carter Lundy. And what a move, what a battle. That was the whole first sector that they were battling against each other.
Yeah, that was actually unexpected to have such a solid battle after turn 1, because there I think it goes up and down, it goes left, right, there's not much space to share, and they actually did it without contact, I think. Maybe a little bit, but that's still, I would call it fair racing here. We didn't see any unfair moves so far, so pretty good racing so far. And in front again we have Liam Purnell, so basically now it is the real P1, but it's going to be attacked from Ruben Vallejo on the main straight with DRS activated. I'm not sure, maybe Liam wants to say, hey look, don't overtake me, we're going to pull away here. But let's see what this driving line means.
Meanwhile, here goes Dylan Warren on Javier Fernandez. That's a great move around the outside. Takes P3 from him, and now Catalunya might like it down the inside here on Fernandez. They are side by side. Let's hope they give each other space, and they do. Javier Fernandez, I gotta say, really, as I was about to praise him, almost pushes off Catalunya here off the track, but still side by side, almost there. I gotta say, Javier Fernandez, a very good vision there from him. He has a good sense of where the other cars around him are, and he leaves them enough space. That is the sort of fair driving I really, really like to see, because sometimes I see drivers just shoving off others, but this is sort of a driver to my liking, to my style of racing, where you try to be courteous, you care more about racecraft than you care about actually winning the race, and you know, you're making a good name for yourself out there as one of the cleanest drivers for sure. And reputation can go a long way, as Javier Fernandez does pull into the pit lane at the end of lap 22, I think that was. Yep. And at the start of lap 23 now. As he will go on to soft tires. Let's see, Sam McBride, meanwhile, in P8. He is only 2 seconds behind Pedreño and on the significantly faster tire at this point. I would guess the soft tyre, I would estimate, I should say, not guess, I would estimate that the soft tyre at this point, Sam McBride's tyres, are about a second a lap quicker than Ruben Pedreño's lap. And if we take a look at the race director, let me check the times between McBride and Pedreño. McBride's last lap was a 1:10.4, and for Ruben Pedreño it was a 1:11.8, but that was a significantly slower lap than previously. I think he was back. So usually he's been in the 11.4s. So pretty much a second. I'm sort of spot on there without even actually checking beforehand. Pretty proud of myself there. But yeah, Sam McBride really closing in, at least on Ruben Pedreño, but really on all the medium runners up front.
Yeah, and actually, one more word for Xavier Fernandez. I think, especially with the old mediums, you know, you have to know where is the limit of my tires. How much can I fight? Where do I have to brake? I think this especially makes a driver special. So yeah, heads up for this driving style. I like it as well. So I think we're both on the same page here.
Yeah, certainly. Meanwhile, Ruben Vallejo has gone for the lead again on Liam Parnell, and this time around, I wouldn't put it past Vallejo to try and gap Parnell. Why? Well, 5 lap fresher mediums. That's an advantage of around 0.3 a lap. Add to that the fact that Vallejo has significantly more ERS. We're talking half the battery, 50% battery charge that Vallejo has over Parnell. So maybe he'll try and do a little escaparoo here. Try and pull a gap of over a second and just drive off into the sunset.
And we have lost Jeffrey Ritchie.
Yeah, that's
in sector 2.
That's exit 10-7. That's the classic position where you lose it. As Carter-Lundy pits for soft tires, I would assume. Yeah, soft tires it is. That's a scheduled pit stop. That is a schedule. I am surprised. I thought he was going to go for the 1 stop here. Instead, he realized, I think, that his tires will not make it to the end. So he's going for the 2 stop. Impromptu change here for the Mercedes driver. And I think, at the very least, he should be able to get the fastest lap of the race. But if it's worth anything, well, we'll see.
Well, actually, I was guessing that he's going for a pit stop because he was expecting some kind of safety car where he would actually gain some time. Or let's say not losing as much as before, but there was no safety car, so I'm not really sure if it was really a planned pit stop or maybe just a bet for having a bit of an advantage.
Yeah, silly bet. Usually, if there is a safety car, you only go in if you actually get that safety car. If you think, oh, there might be a safety car, you're going to hold off until the last possible moment, and then you decide if the safety car graphic pops up, you're like, okay, now I pull in. If it doesn't, you stay out. No matter what happens, you stay out. If the safety car graphic does not pop up, no matter how much you want it to happen, you stay out. Because at that point, if the safety car comes out, you will pass it anyway, which means everyone will be under Delta until you catch up to it again, which means you will have another opportunity for a safety car, so you don't run that risk of like, oh, well, if the safety car doesn't come out, you know, I lost the pit stop here, which is exactly what happened to Carter-Lundy. So I don't, if it isn't, I honestly would call it a not a rookie mistake, but a sophomore mistake, man, like a second year mistake. But certainly a very easy mistake to make. Just high risk, no reward, really, at that point.
Yeah, and I actually have to say, pretty surprising performance from Dylan Warren. Like, after the pit stop, he came really well into this part of the race. We have P1 Ruben Vallejo, P2 Liam Parnell, and then Dylan Warren. He wasn't starting so close behind his teammate. I mean, it was not so far away, but actually when looking at the first stint, we were not really looking at Dylan Warren, and now he's so close to the lead.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, at this point, if I was in the Red Bull, on the Red Bull pit wall, I'd heavily be considering some team orders here, because Liam Parnell, he's got 4 lap older tires. If anyone could mount a challenge to Ruben Vallejo, I think it might be Dylan Warren. Liam Parnell's tires are done for at this point. Vallejo will always have the better tires for the rest of the race. And I just don't see anything happening between the yellow flag and his Gelbevand going slowly through the first sector there. Nothing to worry about. He didn't even spin or anything. He just went a little slowly, letting cars by. But yeah, I'm strongly considering, despite Dylan Warren's penalty, because a penalty might be removed post-race. You never know how that penalty came about. In fact, Dylan Warren, oh no, he got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit. That's definitely not getting removed. I can assure you of that. There's about a 99% chance that that does not get removed, because that's quite a silly penalty to get in the first place. Usually the game is right about it. So yeah, 5-second penalty there for Dylan Warren. That will not get removed. But generally, unless he has reason to believe that, hey, I was on 80 kilometers an hour and the game thought I was on 81, then he might be able to get that removed if he has the evidence for it. But I think it's unlikely. And but if he thinks he can get it removed, he needs to tell Liam Parnell right now, hey, let me by. I have the better tires right now. I can challenge Vallejo for the win, because Parnell can't. It's those tires will not make it to an overtake on Vallejo. I'm worried they might not even make it to the end of the race.
Yeah, I was actually observing the last few laps, a bit of the battery management of the drivers here, P1 until P3, and interesting is.
Biter spun in turn 9. Sorry to cut you off there. Biter spun in turn 9. That's the yellow flag. We got another one. That is for JST. And we got another one again for Biter. That's the exit of turn 10. JST gets going again. Hopefully he doesn't spin here, but the tires are basically done for. He does actually go for a pit stop. Is that for? I think that might be for damage as well. So lots going on. Sorry, apologies for cutting.
Yeah, absolutely no problem. I mean, this is basically more of a fact which will keep us busy for the next few laps, because actually Ruben Vallejo has over 90% of ERS, and looking at the other drivers, we have a lot less. Especially Dylan Warren is like down to 30% of ERS, and that might be a reason why he's not going to overtake, because he's not even able to. I think Liam was trying to put some pressure on Ruben, but actually it was not possible to force him into mistakes, and especially not letting him run out of ERS. So actually it's really, really difficult to pass him.
Yeah, I think at this point we shouldn't see much movement between the top three unless there's some kind of mistake happening. I don't think we should see a lot going on there, because it seems like all three of them are pretty content with where they are. For Ruben Vallejo, obviously he would like to win. Liam Parnell knows he pretty much can't get a move on Vallejo because of the tire situation, and Dylan Warren's got the 5-second penalty. All he wants to do is just drive as quickly as possible, not lose any time. And if that means being pulled by Vallejo and Parnell here, then he'll take that because of the 5-second penalty. Right now he's in a sort of virtual battle against Ruben Pedreño. The gap between those two is just under 5 seconds. We're talking 4.7, 4.8 right now. That's how close that is. So right now Pedreño would get P4. Because HX4K would definitely inherit that final podium position in the Aston Martin behind. In fact, HX4K might be trying to close in on those top three here and potentially challenge those, but he's down on his ERS. He's down to 3, 2, 1, 0%. He has no energy left in that battery. So HX4K really getting the last out of that battery for 6 laps now. He only has the energy that he can harvest in those 6 laps.
And I'm trying to see what's going to happen, like P5, P6, P7, especially Sam McBride, where we had a pretty good, let's say, pretty good estimation after his pit stop. He's still stuck somewhere at P7. He's not passing the cars in front, which are riding on the medium tire. So let's see where it can be at the end of the race for him, but I think it will not be so far in the front.
Yeah, this one's going to be difficult for him. The advantage that he originally had, that 1 second advantage per lap that he originally had on those soft tires, that's almost completely gone now. He should have still like 0.3 of a second, maybe 4 of an advantage on the likes of Kersey and Ruben Pedreño, but that's about it. He will not have much more than that, and it goes down with every single corner. Not much, but it will go down with every single corner and every single lap. So at this point, he's too far away to make an overtake happen. I don't see it happening. And if we look at the ERS situation, maybe he might find Kersey vulnerable here on the ERS, because he's got quite a bit. He's got 70%, Kersey on 15. Certainly an opportunity there for Sam McBride. Meanwhile, further up ahead, the top 3 still contending. HX4K does not get close enough to make something happen here. He's about 1.5 seconds behind Dylan Warren and does not get much closer than that.
Yeah, but also interesting to see is the fact that Rune Vallejo was forced to invest some energy here in the last few laps, and Liam Parnell now has more ERS available than P1, so I think we will definitely see a move towards the end.
He wasn't forced to. He's trying to pull a gap. He's trying to pull a gap of a second to Liam Parnell. He's trying to escape and do exactly what I was mentioning earlier, but it's not successful just yet. 0.9 of a second. He knows he's got the tire advantage. Liam Parnell's tires should be dropping off by now, and so that's his attempt here. As meanwhile, JST I think is off in the gravel on the exit of turn 9 once again. 4 laps to go. Vallejo trying to make a run for it. I don't think he will be successful.
Yeah, it's already lap 33 of 36 here at the Dutch Grand Prix. Actually seeing a pretty solid performance from the Red Bull drivers, but also from the Haas driver in front. Actually, his teammate is on P19, not racing anymore. And let's see the Aston Martin, also P4 and last place Brian Evans, he was out pretty early, I would say. And yeah, so I think considering all the races which we have seen so far, Red Bull is doing a really, really good job here.
Yeah, it's usually what they do here in the RL Global. Liam Parnell and Dylan Warren, just very consistent drivers, both of them. We have another car off. I think that's Catalunya at this point. Yep, P12. He spun on the exit at 10.7, but he's already going again. Already back under green. And yeah, Liam Parnell, he does get closer now. I'm just worried about those tires still. I could not see on 5-lap older tires, especially in the condition they must be in now, that Liam Parnell could somehow mount any kind of challenge towards Ruben Vallejo here. Meanwhile, Sam McBride seems to get ever so close to Kersey. It's just not there yet. That's Biter off. Yellow flag there for him. Exit at turn 9 once more. That's where the leaders come to now. Leaders are through... that is Sam McBride off. That is Sam McBride off. Oh, Sam McBride spun on those soft tires. He lost the position to Neon now. My goodness, that is unfortunate. He was on the back of Kersey, and there was no involvement there of Kersey. That was just Sam McBride under his own power. Just a little bit too much throttle, and the rear of the car just went on him, and he loses 7th place.
It actually felt like there will be the next overtake coming from Sam McBride, but yeah, he spawned, so he's out of DRS. He's just gonna manage his car now and trying to get it over the line. So we basically have our focus now on the top 3, as we are now joining the second to last lap here at the Dodge Grand Prix. And Liam really looks like he's pushing now. He's like very close, and yes, those tires, I'm not sure. I did some investigation in before the race, and I thought the tire actually just lasts like 22 laps. So where are these laps coming from?
Yeah, Liam Parnell is in this league somewhat known as a tire whisperer. I'm still a bit scared, a bit fearful that he might actually suffer a puncture in the last 2 laps of this race here, but he's holding on for dear life very, very well right now, and he almost slides off there. It's getting trickier and trickier on those tires, but they're still going. They're still strong, somewhat strong, I would say. And we're going to have to ask him after the race what his tire percentage is. But here we go. One more lap. Final lap of the race. The white flag is being shown to these drivers. I know that's not usually the case anymore in F1. The white flag is not usually shown to drivers for the final lap anymore. But in other series it is, and it's still somewhat considered to be the flag for the final lap. So white flag for the drivers. And where can Liam Parnell overtake? I think that's the question that we should ask. Maybe into the LES, maybe to the line. It could be a mad dash to the line there between those two drivers. But with the lack of ERS for Liam Parnell, as well as for Ruben Vallejo, I think it's going to be very tricky for Parnell to pull something off there. I think it might have to be the DRS zone that's about to come up after this corner, after turn 10. Okay, he's too far away, half a second, that's not enough. You have to be basically sitting under the rear wing of the car in front, and he is not. So Ruben Vallejo still leading the way with about 3 corners to go. Make that 2 corners now. There is a lapped car in front as well. Question is whether Cataluni wants to do another lap or not, or whether he pulls out of the way here. 1 corner to go, and onto the main straight. It will be Ruben Vallejo taking victory at the Dutch Grand Prix ahead of Liam Parnell, and then 3rd place will be HX4K after penalties. Dylan Warren, a fantastic 4th place despite the penalty. 5th for Kersey on the line there. Ruben Pedreño in 6th. Neon will get 7th on the line, but Sam McBride will take it off him. Neon 8th, Eduardo Garcia 9th, Javier Fernandez will get 10th and will keep 10th, as Danny also has a penalty there, a 5-second unserved penalty that will be added to his time now. And then JST will be in P12 and Gelbevan finally in P15. Catalunya even DNF'd. He spun on the exit of turn 1 after he crossed the line for the final lap, and before I think after the leaders did as well to end the race. So he will count as a lap down, but ahead of the others who are a lap down in Baita and Gelbevan. As we wait for JST, and Ruben Vallejo is your winner of the Dutch Grand Prix.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I think Ruben Pedreño was overtaken just like 2-3 meters in front of the finish line because he was running out of yeah, how do you say, fuel. Sorry for that. Yeah, congratulations here for the Haas driver. That's P1. I think that was a deserved win because he was managing the whole race pretty well, but also very well driven from Liam Parnell on P2 with an early pit stop, allowing him to drive in front of most of the cars of the leader group. And then on P3 we got the Aston Martin, and that's the podium of the Dutch Grand Prix here on Racing Liga TV. So let's have another look at the final classification here. Ruben Vallejo on P1, Liam Parnell on P2, HX4K on P3, Dylan Warren suffering a 5-second penalty on P4. Kersey was overtaking Ruben Pedreño just before the finish line. Sam McBride with a unnecessary spin just before the finish. I think he could have maybe made 2-3 more positions there. Neon on P8, then on 9 we got Eduardo Garcia, and on 10 we got Javier Fernandez, which was actually highlighted by his fair and great driving with his good sense of space on the track. And yeah, that's basically it from our race. I'm actually not sure, are we doing interviews or not? What's the...
we're supposed to, but I'm gonna let them know right now.
I think we're actually not prepared for that. That will be maybe part of the next time then.
All right.
But yeah, actually, I haven't heard anything bad in the chat so far, and we will have a look later how the stream has been going. But actually, thanks for watching, the guys who stick with us until the very end. Was a great show today. Not so much overtaking as we maybe expected, but we had a lot of change in the leadership of the race. So let's see where we're going next week. What is the next race? Are you aware of that? I'm currently not.
Let me quickly find it. You're putting me on the spot here. Hold up. No, I know what calendar we're using. Let me just quickly find it. There we go. The next race will be beautiful. Just like in real life. The real races this weekend are going to happen in the Netherlands. Where are they going to happen the weekend after that? That'll be Monza. And that's exactly where we're going as well for the next race. It will be the Temple of Speed, Monza, the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza, and fastest circuit on the calendar by far. Expect average lap speeds of 260 kilometers an hour. I can't wait.
Yeah, that will pretty much be a shootout of the cars and the setups which the drivers are going to build there. But let's see, let's have some, I don't know, let's get excited for next week. We're going to be definitely preparing some more. We're going to be live on time next time, maybe with some small pre-race interviews or maybe also some small reports on the current season, on the current data. So let's have a look next week. For today, I would say we're closing the stream. Thanks for watching and see you next week.